Okay.
Welcome back!
Woo! This episode's gonna be a special treat.
Yeah, because he's going to randomly just run around and doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I promised you guys a little bit of a science minute with Valeros the Blue. So, let's see. Well, we're talking about like Pip-Boys last time,
Yes.
right? Well, technology for a Pip-Boy is kind of, fascinating and interesting. And obviously, at this point with our smartphones and everything like that, we kind of surpass the capabilities of a lot of the Pip-Boys for a lot of things. I mean, obviously we don't have like any sort of like management, but that's game magic. So game magic, yeah. I don't think we're going to learn how to digitize physical matter yet. And if we do, then that'll be
amazing.
That'll be amazing. That'll be the moment when you start having teleporters and shit. Because hell, I think that's the only way you'll be able to do it. Be able to digitize matter. But it's like, as for like having basically like an everlasting charge on some of your machines and stuff like that, yeah, you could go nuclear route. That's perfectly fine. The problem with that just ends up being, of course, nuclear radiation, being affected by that, and hey, it's a legendary
Raider. Anyway, go ahead.
And of course that's obviously dangerous. You have the worries about cancer and everything, and well, look at everything of Fallout universe. But they're coming up with a shit ton of clean energy sources. And there's been research and stuff done on that for years. So there's little bits here and there. If you just look it up a little bit, you actually can find pretty much anything. Of course, everyone knows about wind energy. Everyone knows about nuclear.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about hydro plants and other shit like that. But what a lot of people might not necessarily know about are... well, they also know about solar energy. But they also really never think about solar energy. What do you think of?
Solar panels.
Yeah, those big, really clunky solar panels. Or
Yes.
maybe if you remember, you might think about that one car, that solar car that was just weird, kind of teardrop shaped thing.
Yeah.
Well, advancements in material sciences have helped a lot, because even like the solar cells we have now and everything like that, they're about. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me on this or anything like that. I mean, just look it up. But they're about like 10-15%. You get 15% turnover, for everyone. You have a little bit of of kickback from the amount of energy and cost put into them, but long term, it's not really efficient. They're not very good at conducting, solar energy into electrical energy really well. But material science now has actually gotten to a point where, with a little bit of tinkering. I mean, I actually would have probably enjoyed getting more in material science personally, but there's materials now, there are types of plastics and stuff like that on a nano scale basically help with the conversion of solar energy a lot better solar energy to electric energy a lot more efficiently. So you're looking at like 60-70% instead of like the 15-20%. And because these materials are so very thin too, they're actually incredibly flexible. So you actually can kind of like, you can fit them around surfaces. You could carry them all, rolled up into like a scroll or some sort of thing right there where you're pulling it out like a shutter, and you could hook up like your cell phone to it and you could charge your phone in like maybe like an hour or something.
Yeah.
A lot more efficient, a lot more grenades. A lot more efficient, a lot easier to use, a lot more easier to carry even, and just kind of in its own way, kind of very, very beautiful.
Yes.
And then if you're looking for something that's going to actually, I mean, of course, solar panels only work what time of day?
I want to say nighttime, but I don't think that's right. Yeah, daytime.
Yeah, it's closer to daytime. But in terms of like other types of energy sources right there, personally, I've been looking into like sources that are more like for permanent magnet based generators, which again, another fascinating, bit of technology right there that's going on. Yeah, I think it was like, I don't know, one of the northern European countries, I forget which one. They actually developed a motor like several years back, I think 2010, give or take, that was purely put together using just permanent magnets, and just a small little motor, a little generator or whatever that could actually put out a good chunk of like energy out of it.
Yes.
And because it's permanent magnets, it's like, it's kind of, once it starts running, you kind of just let it go, and it'll keep going for, well, long time. The amount of time I don't really know, because it's not necessarily like my my speciality in any way. But I mean, you could do something simple and something easier and similar to what they did, kind of at home. If you basically the basic fix. The physics behind it is like if you move a charge through a copper wire, through some wiring, it'll generate a weak magnetic field around it. Well, of course, if you think about it that way, obviously, or maybe not so obviously to some people, the reverse of that is, of course, if you apply a magnetic field to a copper wire, what do you get? You get a movement of charge.
Charge, yes.
Which I've been kind of reading up on Tesla, and some of his stuff for alternating currents is kind of fascinating in that if you have two coils near each other, of course, one coil isn't really producing energy, but as energy is moving through one wire, it actually causes the energy in the other one to move, and it can alternate back and forth, and so you kind of have your up and down right there. And so you're looking at lots of different sources and lots of different possibilities for a lot of your energy sources. Well, if you mix those ideas together and kind of jumble them all up a little bit, you kind of have this very simple idea for a permanent magnet generator. Which, of course, if you mix that together with doing like a solar thing right there, you can actually generate a pretty good chunk of energy. Now, I'm not saying like it'd be enough to like completely ruin any sort of like major industry if you're one of those paranoid crazy types. Believe me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot that's going on right now that's being worked on, and a lot of companies, despite the fact that it's like, yeah, we make a lot of our money off of this, but even they aren't completely blind that, hey, there's a limit to resources you can do for so long. Oh shit.
What are they fighting about?
I think they're fighting. I don't know what they're fighting. Anyways, but yeah, there's that particular little bit right there. Now the problem, of course, is if you're building lots of energy, you need a way of storing it. It ain't like a video game where it's like, oh, I just got to build enough for da 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 da.
Yeah.
The energy has to go somewhere. If you're basically producing energy and it's more than what you actually need, if you're not storing it, you end up causing things to overcharge, and it causes degradation. It causes forced reactions on some of your chemicals that are involved. It'll cause a bunch of problems, a shit ton of problems, and that ends up being that ends up being basically kind of one of the big problems. Well, right now they're working on. I know that they're like battery wise, because they actually have stuff like that. It's like they actually have found a way of creating batteries that can basically be infinitely charged over and over.
Yeah.
Not infinitely charged, but can be recharged like hundreds of thousands of times rather than like thousands or maybe at best tens of thousands. And they found that actually by doing, like, you can actually go look up in a few science journals, or kind of in general, if you take a nanofilament of gold, it actually is a really good conductor, but you kind of end up losing charge really fast. But if you coat it with like a certain, I forget what the actual compound is you coat it in, but if you coat it in this compound, it'll actually prevent it from degrading. And from what they have found is, like, even after, like, I think 20,000 recharges, give or take, it was still going. Like, it would still be able to recharge. And I think they had less than 5% loss, even after that many recharges, which is the biggest problem with a lot of batteries and why they're not really actually usually frequently used by major power generators, because the simple fact that it is finite, and you would have to replace it basically after, like, a year or so, and you need something that's going to last longer. So there's that that's being worked on. Of course, again, if we go to material science, there's probably going to be possibility of thousands of other different, not capacitors. I forget, but basically, you're going to have lots of possibilities actually for holding and containing that energy. And there's there's more than a few science related, physics related people who are of the mindset it's like it's a three-pronged problem with energy in general. You have, of course, generation, which solar and magnetic I mentioned earlier. You have, of course, storage, which I mentioned, kind of the batteries and the nanofilaments, which apparently they had speculated on being like one of these godsends, like the nanofilaments being like one of these godsends for it, and for a long time just couldn't figure out how to get it to work. But then you also got to think about distribution. Distribution is going to be probably the hardest, just in the simple fact that we have already set up a distribution, we already have a really good distribution set up right now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is one of those things where while we have miles and miles and miles of copper wire, of course, there's flaws in that, where it's like if you end up screwing up one telephone pole or one station where you're kind of having all this sent out, you're looking at power being cut out for like a whole grid. And it is a grid-based system, so it's like you don't have to worry. Just because your neighbor doesn't have has power and you don't, that could mean they're just on a different grid. Which, lucky for them, but yeah, if you're both out and they're on a different grid, it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. But I know that there's a number of different technologies out there that they're currently working on to help improve even that distribution. But the problem ends up ultimately kind of being a little bit of distribution, really, more than anything. Because such technologies, I mean, just trying to change like the whole thing would get incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we kind of think of and view money now, yeah, it'd be incredibly expensive. We wouldn't be able to really afford to do most of anything. But, yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about the distribution part of it. I mean, I've kind of been more fascinated with with kind of more the chemical related stuff, but like I'll look into, I mean, I've always found like a lot of that stuff very interesting and fascinating to look up into.
It is, yeah.
I'd recommend looking up into it and, learn a little bit. Get into the science, folks. I mean, it might not always be the very best thing to get into, but hey, it's fun. You learn stuff. You get out there, and you kind of, I mean, there's a lot you can get out of it. And it can make even a job that seems like, oh, it's just pushing papers. Well, you're also looking and studying this stuff and then getting other people to look and study and work on that too.
Yeah.
So again, it's like if you can get in, I mean, I recommend it. Getting into sciences, learn this stuff right there. Don't, just because a job doesn't say a biologist or chemist or a physicist or something like that, doesn't mean it's not a science-like job of some sort. And there is lots of contributions that are being done that people don't really recognize all of it. They just see the big problem in your face is put up there by the media, but not what we're working on trying to do to actually fix it all. So I guess it's more of like a science 10, 15 minute.
10, 15 minute science lesson.
Science lesson.
With V Blue, the science dude.
Yeah.
Get your theme music.
Oh, goddamn.
And we can add it at the beginning anytime it's a science episode. And
oh, damn it.
that's right, you're going to be famous now.
We're going to make Jackson do work?
Well, yeah, we'll make him do work. We'll discuss it later with him when he gets here. So anyway,
All right.
that was your Science Minute with Valeris the Blue,
right.
and I was able to get some things accomplished, so we will see you guys next time.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.